Aloha, everybody. Today is Wednesday, November 27th, 2024, the day before Thanksgiving 2024. And I am very happy to be here today to kick everybody off into their wonderful, hopefully, holiday weekend. I'm curious how everybody's doing out there. Curious how you traders did today. I am looking for a couple of volunteers, as always. You guys know I always prefer to be coaching. So here I'm going to put an invite out there right away so some brave trader can come in and get some coaching as soon as possible. I'm going to also put this up on X. X, of course, I have to go into manually for some reason. So if you're watching on X, guys, just look at this post. Underneath it, you'll see a restream. It says join the restream. That's what you'll press if you want to come in for some coaching. All right. So I first want to thank our generous sponsor, Opal Securities. Very excited about their sponsorship for my podcast and for these lives. And I would love to talk to you more about Opal and what makes them so incredible and unique. So if you want to have that conversation with me, just send me a DM or an email at Kim@thewallstreetcoach, and I can tell you more to see if they're a fit for you. What else do I want to speak to at the start of today? Oh, I'm very excited because my free ebook, The 5 Practices to Become a Better Trader, has just released. And I want you guys to sign up for that. You'll be signing up for Curtain Call, which is my weekly, newsletter. And then once you put in your email, we'll send you a complimentary copy of this ebook. So let's see. If you guys go to X, for some reason, our new post isn't up, but you'll see in my X handle, there is a link that's pinned, and you'll see that if you click there, I'm going to put it up here in the chat box for you guys to take a look at if you want to sign up for it. So this is, these 5 practices are 5 practices I've spoken about quite often. If you guys, listen to me at all, you've definitely heard me speak about these 5 practices. But what's so amazing about this conversation, to be quite frank, is that this conversation is specifically about day traders and what is happening for day traders. So I'm very, very fortunate to have been able to interview Jack Kellogg, Brian Lee, Jason Shapiro, Mari, Jeremy Aguar, and Kyle Williams, and they all weigh in on these 5 practices. So I really hope you'll sign up for that. If you're listening to me on X, you can just go to the pinned tweet and click on that, and it'll take you to it. Our updated imagery for that pinned tweet isn't up yet, but hopefully it will be soon. So I'm excited to share that book with you because I feel what this ebook does, it's a small ebook, it's I think about 25 pages. What it does is it allows you to see specifically why these 5 practices are so valuable for being a trader. And of course, the 5 practices are self-responsibility, self and other empathy, emotional non-resistance, which is the ability to serve hard to be with feelings. Practice 4 is embracing your hero's journey, starting to look at what you're up against with your trading as a heroic adventure, as an up-leveling, so to speak. And then practice 5 is mindfulness, self-awareness. And that is the practice of just simply noticing where you're at, what's going on for you, what triggers you, what makes you feel safe, When do you not feel safe? When are you operating from scarcity? When are you operating from FOMO? When your discipline goes out the window, there is a series of events that happen prior to that. That self-awareness, as you turn up the volume on it, begins to have you start to notice what is happening for you. So then you have a much better chance at being able to interrupt that default setting, interrupt that being hooked, right? Because everybody has their triggers. But if you don't even know what the triggers are, you're a lot more in jeopardy of being kind of invisibly hijacked. And the key here, guys, is to not be invisibly hijacked. That's the start at not being hijacked. Most people just want it to stop. But what I say is, no, it doesn't work like that. First, you have to notice, and then you're in a position to be able to kind of navigate what's ahead. You can't just stop old habits without consciously having them surface, without consciously having them reveal themselves. That's why self-awareness is really so critically important. So I hope you'll sign up for Curtain Call and get that copy, because I think you're going to, especially as you listen to these, incredibly successful traders talk about how they practice it. There's a great quote that Jack Kellogg has in the book. He's talking at this point about practice one, which is self-responsibility. And I'm going to read that to you now. This section, he says, self-responsibility is very important to have as a trader, because without it, you can spiral into trading destruction, therefore becoming an unprofitable trader. Obviously, that is not good. And it's why some people fail, because they don't have that self-responsibility. It's just being responsible for your actions. If you take a loss, you got to be responsible. You can't hide from it. Some people do hide from it, and that's why they continue to struggle. I couldn't imagine that being said more succinctly. That is what you're going to get inside this ebook when you sign up for Curtain Call. And as I said, the link is right there in Restream. And I'm looking now on X to just double check myself, but yep, it sure is there. And if you just click on the pinned tweet, that'll take you to how to sign up for the ebook. All right, so do I have any volunteers? We have about 60 people on all the platforms coming in to visit right now. If you guys see that Restream link, that is where I'd love you guys to click on it if you do want to come in. My request is that you do come in on camera so that we can have a conversation about what you're struggling with. Is it discipline? Is it a fear of missing out? Is it a feeling of greed that takes you over? Is it a fear of discomfort of just taking standard losses? Are you still having a lot of trigger when you take an appropriate loss? Peter Brandt, I quote him all the time. There's a difference between a losing trade and a bad trade. I love that. It's so succinct. Are you still struggling to take losing trades? Because taking bad trades is different, but losing trades is part of being a trader. So if you find yourself still in resistance to taking losing trades, you're going to have to work on that. So maybe one of these issues I've just mentioned, or another issue is your issue, whatever it is. Click that link, come into this conversation, and let's do some speed coaching. Sometimes, guys, the speed coaching is enough. Some people need more coaching. It depends on what the wrestling or struggle is. But there have been times, just even in these 15-minute conversations with somebody, where they have an aha moment. Because when we have a particular perspective, when we're in the middle of some sort of a puzzle that we can't get ourselves unhooked from. I don't know if you've ever heard of what a briar patch is, but it has thorns. It's very kind of messy. It's like a bramble of different branches caught into each other, kind of they've grown into each other. So if you've ever been in the forest or you've been in the woods and you get caught in a thicket of bramble or briar, you have a really hard time getting out because the thorns will be stuck to your clothes, your pants leg. You'll find it difficult to like get a good step so you can get out of it. That is what happens mentally to many traders. They can't see the forest for the trees. They're so kind of caught up in the thicket that they can't really see how to get themselves up and out. And it's sort of, I don't know if you guys had this when you were a kid. It's called the Chinese finger trap. And it's that game where you put your two big fingers inside this like little paper, like, what do you call it? Like, almost like funnel paper, I guess. And when you pull, the more you pull to get out of the trap, the tighter it becomes. The key to that game as a kid, you learn early, is that you can't resist. You actually have to relax, and that's how you can escape that trap. But most traders, unless they have done some work on themselves, have a tendency to get themselves in deeper because their old ways of reacting come to the surface, take them over, and one mistake, a handful of mistakes suddenly become compounded. Suddenly, it's massive losses that are happening because the resistance to what's happening goes into high gear. And I don't want to see that happen to you guys. So the key here is sometimes you simply need to have somebody to talk it out with. This is the power of coaching, guys. When you talk to colleagues, friends, loved ones, they all usually have an agenda. What's the agenda? The agenda is they want you happy, right? It's a beautiful thing. We want those that are in our lives that love us, that care about us. We want them to want us to be happy. But what happens sometimes, though, is that means they can't be neutral. They can't listen to you without their own desire projected upon you. That is the power of a good coach. A good coach is going to listen to where you might be in your own way. And a good coach is also willing to speak a hard truth. But they're also hopefully listening from a place of, where does this person have themselves trapped? Where do they have themselves perhaps using a belief that served them once many years ago, but doesn't serve them now? And the thing is, when you are truly, when a coach is true, when you're being listened to, right? Which any good coach is going to be a very good listener. When you are really listened to, and that person you're talking to isn't, coming up with solutions or, yeah, me too. What happens is you hear yourself sometimes for the first time. You can hear, wait a minute, did I just say that? Do I actually believe that? That is what can happen when you start to have your coaching. I have had so much coaching, guys, not to mention therapy, not to mention shamanic ritual healings. Like, I have done everything, almost everything. And I'm promising you, when I have a coach really listen to me, it helps me hear myself. It helps me, just like writing something down when you're all kind of, torn up inside over which way to go. I don't know if you've ever practiced this. I'm a huge advocate of the morning pages, which is an exercise that Tim Ferriss actually strongly recommends. I discovered the morning pages about 25 years ago, and it was game-changing for me, which is your ability to just simply write in longhand, not with your computer, anything that's going on in your mind. It's sort of like a brain dump. But I'll tell you guys, when you do that, either written or orally, it is a discharge. And it's in that discharge that you can pull yourself up and out of what is that kind of metaphoric Chinese finger trap. And ultimately, that's why I do what I do because I truly believe that everybody has a lot more of their solutions within themselves. That's what's so cool about coaching. I don't see myself as the expert. I see you as the expert. I see you as the person who has the solution you're seeking. What's in the way is simply limiting beliefs and possibly you not following one of those 5 practices. And that is what can keep even the most excellent traders out of that sense of flow, that flow state that Csikszentmihalyi talks about. His book Flow, he has a TED Talk. There's a lot of Csikszentmihalyi out there. Just put in flow state and you'll find him. His last name is Russian, so it has about 36 letters. And Csikszentmihalyi is how you pronounce it, but if you look at how it's spelled, it doesn't look like it sounds like that. Anyway, Csikszentmihalyi's construct, he talks and identifies and helps us all better understand that flow state. The very successful traders, guys, they are able to access that flow state more frequently. But look, even the most incredible trader out there is still human. And if you're 6 feet above ground, you still have something more to learn. You still have more to achieve, at least as an internal state, perhaps not externally, but internally. If we're here on planet Earth, we have more work to do. That's my personal belief. So I would love to repeat my inquiry and invitation for our trader to come in for some live coaching. This is a lot more interesting when I am coaching someone. So I hope you'll consider coming in to have some speed coaching. And if you're not sure where to come in or how to come in, if you're listening through YouTube, you'll see the link is right there. If you're listening on X, then you can go right to my video. You'll see just 2 comments below. It'll be the Restream link for you to come and join. And if you're listening on LinkedIn or Instagram, my recommendation is you come over to YouTube. You look into Wall Street Coach with Tim and Curtin, which is where my is, and then you'll see the ability to click right through here to the Restream link, which brings you into this conversation. We got almost 79 people here now, guys. It seems crazy that we don't have a volunteer yet. So I hope somebody will come in and take me up on this because that's what I do these for. I do them for you guys. I want you guys to have access to coaching because I know that it's expensive. I know that it's sometimes out of reach for some traders. And this is my way of giving back. So here's a question for all of you who are listening. And I put this up on Twitter this morning, X this morning. I asked if you would please share, what are you thankful for of yourself? What did you do this past year, these past few months, that you're really proud of in your trading that perhaps you didn't do before, or you didn't do enough of before, or that you did, but not quite as well in the past as you have currently? This is the mindset I want you guys to start to step into. Being somebody who is a huge advocate of self-awareness, one of the things that I think can be troublesome with self-awareness is you can have a tendency to just notice all the things you do wrong, all the things that you're like, oh, I could so improve upon X, Y, or Z. But here's the challenge with that. When you start to become self-aware, you could easily have a default setting to try to catch yourself and the things that you do that you would rather not do. But it is not a good habit to get into. So one of the things I suggest to people all the time is when they start to practice more self-awareness, more recognition of how they're operating, where their triggers are, is to first read the book, Taming Your Gremlin. Why? Because it's going to help you identify if there is an inner critic, an inner gremlin that is kind of whispering in your ear, or not whispering, but yelling, shouting in your ear all the time. Why is that important to know? Because as self-awareness grows, it's sometimes what happens is people start to listen to that inner critic instead of to their own inner voice. And that is a mistake I don't want anybody here to make. So here's the thing. What I would like you all to do, if you want to take on an exercise as we start to come to the end of 2024, I want you to take on this exercise. It was originally called AI. It's called appreciative inquiry. This is a practice that I learned before I started to do a lot more corporate coaching. I was doing work for organizations, for the leadership, and for the teams that reported to them. And this appreciative inquiry is used often in the corporate world, but it's so powerful and every individual can practice it. So appreciative inquiry is a practice of going into an organization or group of people, and you can use this just in your own trading, and start to focus only on what works well, what is satisfying to you personally, what is satisfying to your trading account, what is going well with the collective of people if it's a group. You just put your emphasis and you become incredibly hyper vigilant to all the things that you do right, that you do well, that are profitable. And that is the only place you put your focus. What happens in appreciative inquiry in organizations when this is used, it seems so counterintuitive. Why would you only focus on what goes well? What happens is when you focus on the things that go well, you gravitate to doing more of those things that are going well. It puts a very different mindset. You start to catch yourself doing things well, and then you do it more often. This is a very strange practice for people who are coming from perhaps deep academia or were consistently criticized as kids, because most of those environments, and depending on the family of origin you come from, most of the times you were yelled at or given a hard time for what you did wrong. You have no experience stepping into noticing what you do right. But it has a huge psychological effect on you when you start to catch yourself. I don't know if you guys follow Brian Johnson. He's the man who's spending, what is he spending, $2 million a year or something on hacking death, right? He doesn't want to die. He wants to be the first person who lives forever. And so he's, constantly giving us updates on the different things he does by way of sleep, by way of health, nutrition, all the different things he's doing. And one of the things he was talking about was, how you can eat healthy this Thanksgiving. You don't have to overeat, right? You can start to find the things that you do that maybe just move you a little bit down closer to the needle of health. And I think that is the kind of mindset I am suggesting to you guys. I want you to start to notice, what do you do well? What do you do right in your trading, and do more of it? What Appreciative Inquiry discovered over many years of implementing this approach in companies, in teams, is that the behaviors that were costly, the behaviors that were troublesome and frustrating to people, they organically started to go by the wayside. Why? Because people became so adept at noticing what went well, what is going right, that they couldn't but help to do that even more. And that is what I want you guys to start to do. I want you to start to practice appreciative inquiry with yourself, appreciative inquiry with how you trade. If you look at your trading journals for the last month or two, I can promise you, you're going to be able to spot the places where you were disciplined, the places where you didn't get tempted by FOMO, the places where you were actually incredibly well behaved. Those are the things that I want you to scour all of your journals for. And then I want you to come back to the next time you trade and I want you to really consider, how do I do this more frequently? How do I do this more often? And I promise you, it just crowds out the negative, costly behaviors organically. It's just how it works. It's just how it works. So, again, a little counterintuitive approach, perhaps, but I can tell you it works. And it is a very, very phenomenally powerful way to start to put yourself back on the path to becoming the best version of yourself that you can be. All right, I'm going to take a sip of water. I don't see any volunteers yet. So, again, please remember, if you have any trading issue that's related to FOMO or lack of discipline or fear of pulling the trigger on a trade, then come on in. I will do roughly 10 to 15 minutes with you. You will describe succinctly the situation you find yourself in. I will coach you right there on the spot. And usually, I would say most clients that come in walk away with some homework. So that's what will go down. Yes, it is on social media. Yes, this is live. And it could be used, later on social media. But here's 9 times out of 10 what happens for the traders who come into this room. They create a posse for themselves. They create a tribe because every other trader who is in this space, listening to the trader who's got the guts enough to come into this room, all of the traders start saying to that person, "Oh my God, me too. Oh my God, thank you so much for coming into that room because I struggle with that very same challenge as well." And that person suddenly realizes, wait a minute, it isn't just me. This is a common challenge every trader faces. And that sometimes, guys, is healing in and of itself. There are so many times where we feel like we're the only one who is making a mistake, who is suffering, who is challenged. And why do you think music is so, you know, popular or successful? It's because in music, we hear that we're not alone. We hear other people whose hearts got broken. We hear other people who had dreams that didn't come true. The key, I think, for most of us, the biggest pain that comes in life on this journey is this feeling that, like, what's happening to us that's painful, difficult, hard to overcome, is like we're somehow isolated and we are the only ones who are going through it this particular way. And that is such misinformation. What is actually true is that everybody around us is having their own struggle with things they never talk about. And I want you guys to start to really get, and that's why I have this, community, and why I have even the Discord room. I want you guys to know that you're not alone. And I think when a trader comes in here courageously speaking about the challenge that they have, what happens is that if viscerally, there's a visceral response in all the traders that are watching because they're like, oh my God, they just spoke out loud the very thing I've been challenged with. And that is it's a gift to have that impact on the people around you. And I have to tell you guys, that is one of the needs that I get met. It's my need to be a contribution. And what I do find is that the traders who do come in here and get some free coaching, live coaching, what winds up happening is they wind up having this little collection of other traders who have their back, who are able to encourage them and to just give them the support that is inevitably going to be needed at some point. And that's what I want you guys to realize. This is a very difficult journey you have taken on. It is incredibly challenging. You are up against the smartest people in the world, and you can handle it, you can navigate it, but you've got to be able to have support. And if you steal that from yourself, which a lot of traders do, and I'm not talking about looking for support with people who don't understand trading, I wouldn't advise that. I don't think that's a smart thing to do. If anything, you're going to be justifying it and defending it and, trying to stick up for it or stick up for yourself. That you don't need more of. But you do need to have emotional support. You do need to have a community of other traders who are navigating and have navigated the very thing you're in the middle of. Give yourself that gift. And if you haven't, seriously consider changing it up as we come into 2025. What and how can you get yourself more support? What and how can you get yourself more encouragement? What and how can you get yourself a feeling of having a tribe of other traders who have been through the grinder and have come out the other side? Look for those people, because those traders are the traders that are going to be able to hold space for you and the pain you're in and not judge it and not try to talk you out of it. They'll just give you the wisdom and the input that they received at some point in their trading career. And that's what I want you guys to all have. And that's why I want you guys to come into this live coaching, because it also lets you feel not alone. Just being able to share whatever you're challenged with even me, never mind all of the others that are watching. As soon as somebody gets coached in here and the coaching begins, people come into the chat box and start saying, like, sharing their own stories, sharing their own challenges, telling whoever's in the hot seat, hey, I can relate to that. I do that too. That is also serving those viewers, because those viewers too, they feel alone. They feel isolated. And that's what I want you to see. This concept of being the only one who's going through XYZ is baloney. And I want you guys to start to really see that. That is your inner critic, your inner gremlin, who is telling you that somehow, it's just you. It's never just you guys, never just you. All right, I'm going to read another excerpt from my new ebook, this one from Brian Lee. Brian Lee is talking about practice 2, which is self-another empathy. And he says here, self-empathy allows me to deal with difficult situations and outcomes without imploding. I lean on my wisdom or the wisdom of others to coach myself into a positive mindset. One key mindset I adopt during tough times, like a drawdown, is reminding myself that if I were a better trader, I wouldn't be in this situation. And so that I must grow. Another mantra that I like is, you are exactly where you need to be. That helps me deal with feelings of inadequacy and a focus on attacking the present. And that, again, is Brian Lee, who's featured in my new book, The 5 Practices to Become a Better Trader. So I'm checking in. I don't see that I have any volunteers yet. Please be willing to consider coming in for some live coaching, guys. If there's anybody here that does want that, just take that link, that invite link that says Restream, and come on in, or just give me a message. That's what you want, and I'll make sure to get the link to you. All right, I'm going to read Jason Shapiro's quote. He's featured in practice 4, which is the internal external journey of trading. And this is featured in my new ebook, which is called The 5 Practices to Become a Better Trader. So here is Jason's quote that's in the book. The hardest thing to understand as a new trader is that it is your failures that will ultimately define your success in the future. Everyone I know who has started off being profitable has eventually lost it all and then had to really decide if trading was the journey for them. I personally ran accounts up a lot on more than one occasion before losing it all. My trading life changed when I decided I needed to change what I was doing. I became more focused and build and follow a defined process in order to make money trading over time. I learned this from the lessons of losing money. It is really the only way. And that is Jason Shapiro, who's featured in Jack Schwager's book, Unknown Market Wizards, dropping some really hard truths, but powerful truths. So if you like those quotes that I've read today and you guys want more, remember Kyle Williams is also featured. We have 3 other traders who are featured in this ebook, Mari, Jeremy, and Kyle Williams. And we're going to put those quotes up on that sales page too. We just haven't gotten to it with the holiday. It was a crazy busy week, everything moving at the speed of light. So I'd love to share this ebook with you. It is called The 5 Practices to Become a Better Trader. And I believe, I put that right there in the chat box. And I'm pretty sure it's even, it sure is. It's even in the X announcement. So that's good. So do I not have any volunteers? So far, it doesn't look like it. We have about 84 in total from all the platforms coming in. It's so good to have you guys here. If you guys are feeling really shy today, or you've already dug into the Christmas pie, Thanksgiving Day pies, even though you're not supposed to eat them till tomorrow, and you guys want to ask me a question, feel free to put it in the chat box. You can also go into X and send me a private DM, and I will answer that too. I want you to really have clarity that you need for yourself over whatever area you're currently stuck on. Okay. All right. Well, gosh, what else can I say? I'd love to get a volunteer. And if I don't, then I'll probably bring this to a close. I would love to see how this ebook affects you. After you read it, please report back. Tell me what you learned from it, what served you, what of those 5 practices seem to speak the most to you. I think the key too is to realize that those 5 practices each are going to have a time and a place where you will be like, oh, when you start to work with these, you will discover very quickly that they are sort of like arrows in your back, right? So that if you see a target and you realize, oh, I have to get to that target, you'll be able to consider which of those 5 arrows is the best arrow for you to shoot through the goal that you have set for yourself. That's what these 5 practices have the power to do. They have the power to help you go after your goals and get rid of whatever's in the way of those goals. Usually, in my experience, there is a combination of some technical changes that a trader has to make and also emotional shifts that a trader has to make. And if you feel like you're already ready to do that and you don't even want to come into this speed coaching, then again, please consider doing my trader positioning index. I've spoken about that quite a bit. I think it's one of the more powerful tools you can ever use. I never saw anything like this. This thing blew me away. And I would love for you guys to experience it because I know that's going to help us both right from the get-go see where are there potentially limiting beliefs inside of you. Once you're able to see those limiting beliefs, once you're able to get a sense of how are you being impacted by them, I can promise you guys, you cannot undo the seeing. You've heard this in probably every kind of movie or in horror films, like you can't unsee it once you see it. And that's ultimately what I want you to think about. Okay, hi, Asmuth. I'm glad you're here. All right, so you're saying your current challenge is rebuilding trading capital and refining my approach. What specific daily practices or frameworks would you recommend to help me stay disciplined and rebuild confidence? Thank you, Asmuth. That's a great question. I really am glad that you're asking it. So, Asmuth, here's what I want to speak to before I give you some kind of techniques and tools. What I'm hearing possibly, and you will have to tell me because I'm, reading this text and not getting to talk to you. And if you want to come into the room, just let me know. Put your name on, that's okay. But the challenge of rebuilding trading capital, I would want you to take a look there first. Why? Because and if you're in a position to answer my questions right here in the chat box, please do. Do you feel this is gonna be a weird question, okay? You're gonna be like, "What has this got to do with what I'm asking?" But follow me on this. Do you feel you have, uh, really clearly understand now what happened in the first place? Are you able to identify that? Are you able to succinctly describe what happened, right? Why am I asking you this? Whenever there is a blow up of an account, what is often under it frequently is this kind of energy. I call it the have to, must, should energy. I'm picking up on that a little bit with the way you open this statement. So if the have to, must, should find success is part of what informed the blow up you had to begin with, then if your attempt to rebuild your capital is the same energy of have to, must, should, then you are potentially finding yourself back in that same vicious cycle. So if you're in a position to answer that question, please do. But I want you to also answer this question. If you came from that energy of have to, must, should, get success the first time, is it possible that that informs you breaking your discipline in taking risk that was inappropriate based on how much capital you had, based on how much experience you had, based on your stomach for volatility? That is another question, right? Because ultimately, the key here is I think I did come from that energy. Great, good for you, Asma, that you see that and you can identify it. So stay with me here. Is it possible that that energy of have to, must, should is still operating? Is that the energy behind I have to rebuild my capital? Take a look at that, because if it is, then you are potentially setting yourself right back into the same sequencing, the same uh, lane, right? So that tells me possibly, if that's true, that is where you have to take a serious look. I'm going to use this metaphor, like it's a metaphor of when I think that is from what I'm hearing from you now. Good, Asma. I'm really glad that you're hearing that. If we put a metaphoric gun to our head to produce, you can imagine that we probably will not be operating at our best, right? Did you ever see that photograph of the dictator of North Korea? It's a picture of him looking at a man who's on his computer. And it's a meme or GIF. It's a joke, and it says, you think you're having a hard day at work, and they basically show this guy, trying to put something into the computer with the dictator of North Korea looking over his shoulder. Like you're like, oh my God, that poor man, he's under so much pressure. And yet, think about it. Some of you guys put that kind of pressure on yourself every time you trade. This has to be done right. I have to do it perfectly. I have to make the money right away. I've given myself 5 minutes or 5 months or 5 years part time, and I'm still not where I should be. That kind of impossible uh, goal is it can sabotage you because you are coming from this place of have to, must, should. So I would say you would be best served to take a look at what and where that pressure is coming from. I'm not going to pretend like you're not going to have pressure. I'm not going to pretend discipline and screen time and some blood, sweat, and tears isn't going to be required on this journey. Of course it will. But if you're holding a metaphoric gun to your head and your expectations for yourself aren't actually yours, but possibly an inner critic, an inner Kremlin, some kind of internal judgment that perhaps isn't even about trading, but is about how you've lived your whole life, then you've got to take a really hard look at what that is pushing at you, because it's that pushing, that have to, that must, that should, that is your enemy, not you, not the fact that you need practices or frameworks. And the confidence, here's the thing about confidence. Confidence comes when we aren't beating the living daylights out of ourselves. But confidence also comes from repeating disciplined actions. What you want to take a look at is if you're not staying disciplined, right? It's because of this internal voice that's constantly telling you, you have to, you must, you should produce. That is the reason you probably stopped being disciplined. You broke your own word to yourself. Why? Because you are being tormented, likely, by this have to, must, should, slave driver that's internal. And that's why it's so important for all of us to get to the bottom of where that inner critic is coming from, because it is that have to, must, should energy that will keep us repeating the same cycle. I say this often, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So as Muth, ask yourself, how do you do with failure? What happens when you lose a poker game? What happens when you miss out on the parking spot? What happens when you get in the wrong line and then have to go? Do you beat yourself up? Are you hypercritical? Do you say, what an idiot I am? I can't believe I just did that. If that is a relationship you have with yourself, how are you going to be able to produce in the midst of the hardest game in the world? That kind of self-talk, that kind of metaphor gun to the head doesn't work, guys. It might last temporarily, but eventually it unfolds into self-sabotage. And it's possible that's what's afoot now. The same energy that got you to blow up your account, if that's the same energy you're coming from now, you might make the capital back, but then you'll lose it again. And that is what we do until we interrupt the pattern. The pattern is the issue. The pattern has to be looked at. The judgment, the expectation. I'm all about bodacious goals. I'm all about taking on things. Look at the things I've done have been crazy bodacious. When I decided to write the first book that I wrote, I was completely ill-prepared for that. And I said yes to do it. When I moved to Hawaii from New York City with a brand that specializes in finance people, I was crazy, right? That was a bodacious plan. But I want you guys to realize that Bodacious is different than next to impossible. And it's funny, once I talked to somebody who I said, it'd be, let's say what's today? Today's Wednesday. It would be like saying you're going to run an Ironman this Sunday. Like, come on. Like, how's that going to go? Right? Most of the times, it seems to me traders have an expectation that is that impossible. And then they take it on. They expect Ironman results with 3 days, and then they somehow cross the finish line at all, but they're pissed that they didn't do it faster. Like, come on, guys, let's create some expectations that are within this galaxy. Yes, you want to have bodacious goals, great. But how about in this galaxy? Let's just keep them in this galaxy. And that's what I want you to do, to inquire, Smooth. I would inquire with, is this a way of life? Is this how you have been programmed? Have you given yourself hell every single time you have done less than perfection? And was it that seeking perfection and or instant results that possibly informed why you weren't disciplined to begin with? And so what I would say is the daily practice is read the book, Taming Your Gremlin, and then practice daily. What is your inner critic saying? Identify your own inner critics. Identify what this voice that is the energy of have to, must, should. Where does it come from? You want to get that inner critic, inner gremlin identified, because if you do, you will not be as likely to be hijacked by it. And that is the key. So I would say your daily practice, at least for a couple of weeks, if not a month or so, is to start to notice when that have to, must, should energy is talking to you, because it likely is a gremlin, an inner critic that you have yet to completely have clarity about. Taming Your Gremlin is a great conversation. It's a great book and conversation about inner critics, about inner saboteurs. And I would say read that book, and then your practice every day is to identify your inner critic, identify your inner gremlin. And that is what I want you to then ask yourself every day when you hear that inner voice telling you, you better do this, you have to do this. I want you to simply notice, oh, look at that. That's my inner critic trying to hijack me, my vehicle again. And don't let them. That takes time, takes effort, it takes patience, takes a minute, because most times people haven't even realized they've been listening to their inner critics their whole freaking life. And look, these inner critics, they start young, guys. They start when we're kids and we're trying to navigate the household, the family of origin we come from. And if we did not have, most people didn't have very healthy parents. And so there was some behaviors we had to adapt that were not authentic to ourselves so we could freaking cope. And sometimes one of those coping mechanisms is to become a perfect student, is to become the perfect kid who gets all A's, who does everything right the first time. Because when we get ourselves those things, that secures us maybe to not get beat up physically or metaphorically or emotionally. So a lot of times that inner crit, that initial voice that helped kind of save our ass, which was really our own inner voice, can sort of take on a life of its own after 18 years old. Once we're out of that household, once we're on our own, sometimes that inner critic, it gets kind of birthed as a place and a defense mechanism that we will use going forward to keep ourselves safe. But the thing is, we're no longer in that same destructive environment or costly environment. We're now able to take care of ourselves, protect ourselves. So what served us when we were kids doesn't serve us as we're adults. Another book I'm going to speak to that helped me understand this better is Alice Miller's book called The Drama of the Gifted Child. That book is very profound at helping us all understand, me included, how often we will take behaviors that kept us safe in our childhood into our adulthood, certainly into your trading, that once served you, but now cost you, like making you not stay disciplined. So, Asmuth, I hope that helps. And I'm so glad you asked the question because it's such a powerful question. And I'm really, really proud of you because, to just coach somebody by text, it could be very difficult, but it wasn't with you. And that you were able to look quickly and say, oh, I was coming from that energy. And I might be coming from that same energy now. So I would say, read the book Taming Your Inner Gremlin and also watch my podcast. It's Rick Carson on the Wall Street Coach podcast. The author of that book is Rick, and he and I talk about the power of his book and how it really changed my life and how it contributed to me becoming a coach. That book was just so powerful. The first coach I ever hired, which has now got to be over 20 years ago. I've been a coach for 18 years. So 20 years ago, that book was recommended to me by my coach, and it was a game changer. So that is what I would say, Asmuth, you work on. Read the book, listen to Rick Carson's conversation with me on my podcast, and then see if on a daily basis you can just start noticing. I say, get an index card and do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just keep track of the frequency of how often this inner critic. Remember, we got a busload of them. If only we had one, it would be not so hard. But unfortunately, it's usually a busload of them. So just identify the first one. Identify the one that was saying you have to, you must, you should. See if you can get that one identified. What does its voice sound like? Sometimes people say it sounds like my dad or it sounds like my mom, but it isn't. A voice is a voice unto itself. It may have been informed and have similar characteristics to parents, but they really have become entities unto themselves. So I'd like you to do that at homework. And then I would say each and every day, start to pay attention to how often are you enduring its hostile voice. And here's the sign, guys, for anybody listening. How do you know if it's your voice versus an inner critic's voice? This is the telltale way you can tell. The inner critic's voice makes you feel like crap, makes you feel like garbage, makes you feel worthless, makes you feel ashamed, makes you feel really crappy about yourself. If that is what your inner voice it has that kind of impact on you, it's not your inner voice. It is your inner critic. Doesn't mean you can't, again, have huge goals for yourself. But when it's abuse, when it's self-flagellation, when it's judgment is with a nasty edge. We all have to be honest with ourselves. And sometimes we have to be honest and speak hard truths and judge. Yes, this is what I did and that was not good. But if it comes with nasty judgment, it's not going to help. Okay, yes, it helped. I'll take these steps to improve. Excellent, Asmuth. I'm really happy to hear that. Please stay in touch. Let me know how it goes. And I would say 100% sign up for Curtain Call. That's my weekly email where I pose coaching questions to traders. So I think that those questions each week are going to be a good exercise too. And I also want you to get a copy of the 5 practices to become a better trader, because those 5 practices all are going to speak in service to today's conversation that we had. Okay, so any last questions, guys? Before I go, I'm actually going to be doing a space with Turbo in Investors Underground in a few minutes. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm pretty sure it's in 15 minutes. So I have to get prepared. But I did want to just see if there was anybody else who had any questions. That would be great. I'd love to take it before I hop off. I really hope everybody's about to have a really great Thanksgiving. That's what I'm hoping. And would love to hear what you guys do for your holiday. If you want to share, are you going to spend it with family? Are you going to spend it on your own? Are you going to spend it with good friends or family by choice? Whatever you're going to do, I really hope it's a great, great holiday. All right, so I'm double checking here. It is, yeah, in 15 minutes, so I have to go get ready for that. Do bio break, all that good stuff. So I'm wishing you guys a very happy Thanksgiving. I am very grateful this year and thankful to all of you. There have been so many traders who have come into this space over the past year, and it's been really quite profound to do this work with all of you. I'm so impressed at the dedication all of you traders have, your willingness to be with some hard truths, your willingness to improve yourself, your willingness to up level. That takes a lot in this world. This world is constantly kind of holding us down, pushing us down. And for those who are saying, nope, I'm going to be the hero of my own adventure. I'm going to be the hero of the journey that I take. Takes a lot of courage. And let's be honest, not everybody does that. So I hope you can find all the things you're grateful to yourself for tomorrow. I want you to find and discover, like I spoke to before, appreciative inquiry. I want you to find and start to focus on what have you done well this year? What do you do right? What works? What gives you some sort of like bounce in your step when you feel really proud of yourself? And then do all of that more often. Find all the things you do well, all the things you do right, and take that volume dial and put it on 10, guys. Turn up the volume on what you do right, and all the stuff you don't do right falls by the wayside. Don't look for what's wrong. Look for what's right. Look for what works. And ask yourself, how can you start to practice noticing the things you do well much more often than the things you don't do well? And you will find this becomes a way of life, not just a way of trading, but a way of living. And I promise you, that leads to a much more satisfying, easeful, and joyful life, to be quite honest. Okay, Lex, quick, hit me up quick before I have to go. Okay, Lex, glad you're here. Osmuth, glad you're here. Looks like we had some new people come in today. I'm really glad to have you guys here. I have switched the days I do this. I tried to do it twice a week, Tuesday, Thursdays. I'm going to do it now on Wednesdays. And the only time I won't be doing this is if I have a podcast or an X Space. I have Bryce Toohey coming on soon. Can't wait to have him on. I've wanted him on my podcast for years. He and I, of course, kind of were two ships that passed in the night at Stocks to Trade, Steady Trade, when I was doing the podcast there. And he and I got to see each other at the Traders for Cause conference. And I was like, Bryce, you got to come on my podcast. I haven't had you on. He's like, let's do it. Let's make it happen. So that's going to be great. He's just such a great guy. He's so glass half full. He's such a happy, just enthusiastic trader. And I just adore him. And I think you guys will get very much out of that conversation. Okay, Lex, I don't see your question. Maybe you're writing it out. Cynthia, it's good to see you here. I'm very happy you're here. I'm glad it served you. Lex, you can come into the room if you want. I don't know that you do, but here, quick, I'll give this to you in case you do. You just click on this link, have your camera on, and you can come in. But if not, Lex, and you want to ask a question, please put the question in as fast as possible, because I got to hightail it over to Investors Underground's Turbo Sam's room. So just ask that question quick. I'd love to take it on if I can, or if you want to come into the stream really quick, I can answer your question in a quick conversation. All right, Lex. So maybe if the question is too long and it takes you a little while to write it, or maybe you got sidetracked. But Lex, let me just look at next week. just to make sure that I'm not speaking out of turn. Yeah, so I'll do next week. I think I'm going to be doing it a little bit later, around 5 o'clock Eastern next Wednesday. So, Lex, if for whatever reason you're not able to get your question through to me right now, come to next Wednesday and bring your question, or better yet, come into the room and let me coach you. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up then, guys, because I'm not hearing from you, Lex. Sorry about that. I would stay a little later if I could, but I have that other commitment. I do this for Investors Underground each month, the last Wednesday of the month. So I got to go there. You guys, please be sure to have a great Thanksgiving. Spend time identifying what you're grateful for with regards to yourself. You did things this past year that were different. You did things for yourself that were helpful. It can help. Okay, it can wait. Okay, Lex, good. I'm really glad. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Find the things you've done well, guys. I want you to write a list. I'm going to give you a huge homework assignment here. I want you guys to write 100 things you're grateful for about yourself. I want you to search yourself deeply. I don't want you to ask AI. I want you to ask yourself, your heart, your mind, your discipline, all the things you've done well. I want you to write a list of what you're grateful for to yourself. And that is 100 things. And if you're stuck, I want you to go Google Snoop Dogg's award ceremony where he thanks himself. He will give you some inspiration. Okay, guys, I'm going to end the stream, and I'm wishing you all a very happy Thanksgiving. And thank you for being part of these live coaching. They're wonderful. And okay, Lex, I'm typing, it says. Oh my God. Hurry up, type quick. Are you a typist, Lex? Thank God for typing. I took typing in high school. I think I got myself up to 70 words a minute, 80 words a minute. I was doing pretty good. Yeah, I'm seeing your messages, Lex. Totally. 100%. Yeah, you said it could wait. It's not super urgent. You said it's okay. Next time, you said I'm typing. Are you seeing these messages? Yes. But if I don't get your questions super quick, then I am going to have to take it next week. Typing is, thank God for typing class. And those typewriters that clack, 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 clack. It was amazing. All right, I'm going to go. Send you guys good vibes. Have a great Thanksgiving. Do your 100 things you're grateful to yourself for, and come back and let me know if you did your homework. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Hui ho. Be well. And second helping of pumpkin pie